begins now.
Okay, now here is a super efficient combat swimmer stroke swum by a very tall guy. Now he's not a swimmer, but he is a lacrosse player who has recently learned to swim. And this is his stroke. Check it out. Notice this kick off the wall. Super efficient glide, real streamline, everything straight, just perfect glide. And he comes up for his first breath. He's actually halfway across the pool. Now his kick is a little big. Notice his big kick, but it's just his big long legs. Kicking that big, and that was only 3 strokes to get across the pool. Now notice this: kick off the wall, little dolphin kick, double arm pull, kick and recover, turn and breathe. Boom! That's one breath. Pull, breathe, kick, and glide. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Pull, breathe, kick, and glide. And he is done. That is an efficient combat swimmer stroke.
When I tell my clients that I go to bed at 7:30 every night, it's only because I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get myself prepared, and look for what I find are necessary real estate emergencies to call on. Every potential client has a real estate emergency. 15 years ago, when I started using the phrase Uncle Andy, I felt that people would have a better understanding and a closer association with me. It's been very helpful for me too, because when I walk into many offices, people there will say, "Oh, hi, Uncle Andy." When this happens, it means that I made some sort of connection with that person.
Red light camera.
And the main thing about business is you got to have something that people will remember you by. I consider myself a family man. The one thing that I know how to handle are emergencies. I have 5 children, and we have a total of 11 grandchildren. And you can understand that emergencies pop up all the time. That's why I decided that the real estate industry needs an emergency room set up. We are the real estate emergency room for every realtor, builder, and for those who are handling the senior citizen population. When you work with individuals in this field, there are so many different ones that you have to deal with, and they in turn many times don't know whether they're working with a person that they can trust, and repetition and being seen on either a standard or a planned basis is very important.
Alert. Red light camera.
One of the things that I find is that when I go into a real estate office, I try to get there at least once every 6 weeks, if nothing else, just to walk in and say, "How are things going?" Do we have any properties that we can use as an auction? And what can I do to help you? I'll drive as far south as Fredericksburg, Virginia. I've gone all the way up to Wilmington, Delaware. I'll go anywhere in the state of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, as well as over to the eastern shore of Maryland. I find that every emergency is a very important emergency for our organization. When we do a real estate auction, we do all of the heavy lifting that is necessary to get this house and the properties that are in the house sold. We like to take care of things because one of the hardest things that we have to deal with is explaining to an individual that there is no work necessary on their part. We help to get them settled, and we move things along so that they can move on with the rest of their lives.
Hi, my name's Larry Foreman, Chesapeake Auction House, St. Leonard, Maryland. We've been here for 22 years. This used to be a lumber company, and we decided to open up as an auction house. Our specialty is trying to meet the needs and niche of our community, and we've been fairly successful doing that, being able to do different type of auctions. By meeting Uncle Andy a couple of years ago in Express Auctioneers, it's really brought to the table a different, unique, and exciting part of our business because he does the heavy lifting. He takes care of the emergency needs that we have because we have a lot of people that are in need of doing real estate in which we didn't do. So with Uncle Andy and Express Auctioneers, they do the heavy lifting and they take care of that part of our business. In reference to the estate auctions, this is an estate auction that you see behind me. One of the exciting things working with Andy is the fact that not only do we do estate auctions here, but we do estate auctions with Uncle Andy and Express Auctioneers when Andy sells the home, and we go in and be the second part of that where we do the auctioning of the contents of the home. That's been really successful on both Express Auctioneers and Chesapeake Auction House working together. Hey, Uncle Andy, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you.
I'm
I'm
glad
glad
to
you
be
stopped
here.
by.
Yes.
Because the people from the Fort Washington property, they thought you did a great job. They were really happy with the price and the clean out with that we did.
Beautiful. They did say it was perfectly clean, and I
Great
looked
job.
at it.
Great job.
Couldn't
By
find
the
it.
way, I have two more people that I want you to call. We get telephone calls almost every day on people wanting to downsize, people that are concerned about deaths in their families. And when I have the opportunity to talk about people and the things that we do, which is of course the inside, the contents, I have the ability to talk about what they're doing with their real estate. And that's where I'm able to talk to these people about Express Auctioneers and Uncle Andy and what he can do. Working with Uncle Andy in the Express auction method has been really successful for us because he brings to the table and we bring to the table, and it really makes it very successful in both companies working together.
passion comes from the complete creativity that we have in this industry. There's so many different raw materials and different combinations at which those raw materials can be put together. We're constantly evolving beer styles, coming up with new beer styles. Craft beer literally kind of has bastardized what brewing is all about, and it's great. As the company has grown and matured, it's amazing to see where it was to where it's become now. You build your perfect brew house, and then all of a sudden you can't make enough beer, so you increase your fermentation capacity. Then you have to increase your cellar capacity. Well, now you can brew it, you can cellar it, but you can't package it fast enough or efficient enough. So now you then need to increase your packaging efficiencies, your racking line efficiencies, speeds, size. Then you start that kind of cycle back over again.
There was quite a bit going on as far as advancing and changing. The decision to go to a robotic method for depalletizing was kind of driven primarily by safety. The types of jobs that were being done were very repetitive motions. We had multiple injuries, and the company was very concerned that we would not want to have more injuries with the personnel working here. The secondary part of that was speed. We were limited by speed by the manual method, so we opted to take a look at a robotic method to actually move the cases off the line and place them onto conveyors.
While the automation task here at Widmer Brothers was relatively straightforward in concept, what was challenging for the automation integrator was primarily the fact that we're in very unique and tight space constraints. The robot system was custom designed and programmed to be able to fit into this space, and the robot actually moves in and out and around the joists to perform this task. And the robot will pick all 12 boxes with a custom vacuum gripper that pulls a huge vacuum to latch onto the boxes, and placing it onto a custom conveyor that will then take the layer and singulate and separate and orient the boxes for the bottling line.
When you see the brewery really humming along like it's supposed to, it's really impressive when you think of all the different moving pieces and individuals that have to all be on the same page. When we talk about automation, in some circles within the craft beer world, it's almost a taboo word, which to me is kind of baffling, because we don't have to have operators solely focusing on one specific task. So therefore that operator has the ability to focus on other nuances of the job, learn more about the beer. When I hear automation, I think consistency. When you start to introduce the technology in the right fashion, you get consistent product, and you get a very well-made beer. That Widmer Hefeweizen is always going to be nice and golden and yellow and yeasty and have citrus aromas behind it. It's perfect.
Creci, who considers pizza and a six-pack of beer fine dining. Let's see what happened when the Learning Channel asked him to step out of his comfort zone and into the role of wine steward at an ultra-sophisticated restaurant. That's hard. Meet Bill Creci, captain of the U.S. beer drinking team.
I guess you would call me the typical beer drinker. I want to go to a place where I can get a pitcher of beer and a bucket of wings.
For the next 3 weeks, Bill is leaving his comfort zone and traveling to San Francisco, where he'll train to be a sommelier, a wine expert who picks wines that perfectly complements food.
I never heard of a sommelier. I thought it was a country in Africa.
Bill has never even set foot in a fancy restaurant.
He thinks he's being polite at a restaurant if he belches really loud into a napkin.
I want to show them that your regular, typical beer guy can come into their world and do just as well, if not better than them.
In San Francisco, it's up to Bill's mentor, Mickey, to teach him the difference between Burgundy and Bordeaux.
What fruit do you taste on the palate?
Maybe a pineapple,
Tropical fruit. Banana?
cotton candy, green apple, automobile, diesel, or gas.
Bill tries to learn how to serve wine with style and a little grace.
Don't pop it. Don't pop it.
Then Bill faces his first test.
You guys are pretty busy tonight.
Yes, very busy.
And immediately makes a huge mistake by not pouring for the lady first. He served you first.
Maybe he likes me better than he likes me.
From there, things just seem to get worse.
You don't know what you're pouring.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's a bread plate. You just put it on. You're rushing them. This is an experience. This is not a burger.
I feel like a complete idiot.
As part of Bill's training, he gets a sleek new look. A voice coach refines his speech, and he even takes a trip to the wine country.
Jump around! Jump, jump, jump around!
But halfway through his training, Bill is fed up when he's forced to choose between his new job and his first love, football.
You can either work the floor with me tonight and be a sommelier, or you can go watch the game.
I've made my choice. Football has been my life for a long time.
So, grab your jersey, get out of here. I'm really disappointed. I think he's making a horrible decision.
I'm really sick of this pretentious wine attitude. It's freaking wine.
With the big night approaching, Bill decides it's time to get serious. He will be competing against 3 real sommeliers as his mentors watch anxiously backstage.
Just showing them all nicely.
He's pulling off the pen with his teeth.
If you were sitting down at the table, what would you be drinking if it wasn't Chardonnay?
Beer.
He's doing much better than I had expected,
Me
I
too.
have to say.
Even though 2 out of 3 judges picked him as the new guy, Bill says he learned a lot.
It's going to be an experience I'll never forget. It was a heck of a lot more emotional than I thought. I accomplished a lot. I did in 3 weeks what takes people 3 years to do. So that made me feel really, really good.
Diago, good job, my friend. Take care, buddy. Thank you.
That's tough. That wine world, it's its own world, is it not?
It really is. I mean, I had a lot of preconceptions, and I was wrong most of the time, but there were a lot of people, once I told them about my beer love, they kind of looked down at me and joked about it. But overall, I mean, people are people, and I realized that if you bring a little bit of yourself to the table and just do what you love, that you can do anything you want.
Yeah. Did you learn to love wine?
Actually, yes. My wife's very happy now. We can actually go to a restaurant, and I can actually order. Usually she'd say, you know, red or white. I was like, I don't know. Whatever's colder, I like.
Thanks, Bill. We'll be right back. Thanks for stepping out of your box. Okay, thanks to all of my guests today, especially Bill. It's frickin' wine. That's all it is.
Viewer discretion is advised. Live from the StuSmith.com studios, the Internet Broadcast Network proudly presents Strategy Television, starring Chief Strategist Ray Hoffman and The Closer.
And we are live, going to tape right here with Strategy Television. And this is going to be a terrific episode today for you. Glad to have you here with us as we get this show rolling. I'm Ray Hoffman. My co-host here is Larry the Closer Mikowski. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Ray.
And we also have Skyping in Chicago Bill, who I haven't seen in like 10 years. We're old buddies from Beer Radio. And I can't hear Bill, but I'm sure that's probably for the best for right now. Oh, I can hear him now. So Larry, let's talk about you and strategy and what you do for a living and how you've been able to really carve out a niche in the real estate industry.
Well, Ray, I've been doing this for about 40 years now in and around the Mid-Atlantic area as an auctioneer selling real estate, helping people move on with their life and close out their lifestyle if they're making their transitions. That's primarily our job, is to make sure that they get it done in a smooth, clean method.
And that's great. So you sort of fix situations where people are having a difficult time selling real estate?
Yeah, it happens, and especially in the last few years. It's been difficult for people to move their property in a timely manner. What our job is to do is to sell it and let them know when it's going to be sold so they can move on with their life and make a plan instead of waiting around for someone to show up and buy their property and put contingencies on it so they don't know for sure whether it's going to go through or not. Our deal is to make sure that it sells and it closes.
And you've had a lot of success.
Yes, very good.
What is some good advice for someone who is planning on selling a home?
Well, the best advice for them to do is to take a look at it and see their timetable and what their situation is and call in an auctioneer. It's only natural to call for a realtor who has a certain plan, but we have what we call the Plan B. If it doesn't sell in a certain length of time, we will step up and show them how it can be sold at auction sale at the same price or net to them as if it was sold at a regular real estate transaction.
Very interesting. Chicago Bill, can I hear you now?
I can hear you. I know. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you too. Welcome, buddy. I haven't talked to you in like 10 years, back with the Beer Radio days, and I have to say that you look so much better in radio.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
So welcome to Strategy Television, Bill. What have you been up to the last 10 years?
Oh, God, I don't think we have enough time to go through that, but I've been kind of going through some good strategies. I have a son that just turned 21, so I'm kind of trying to teach him the strategy of life. And we've actually had the last couple weeks a couple of really good lessons that I think hopefully he'll learn and take further from what I have taught him.
Well, that's good. What kind of strategies? I mean, I'm sure you've made all the mistakes over your lifetime. So now you've blazed the trail, and you know how a 21-year-old should act. What kind of life hacking have you applied to your son?
Well, it's funny. Obviously he turned 21, so my son just wanted to go gamble. He's learned from me. We used to have poker parties here, and he always served the drinks, and he learned at a young age, serve the drink for the guy with the most chips because you get the biggest tip. But we took him to a local casino here in Michigan, and we went out and golfed all day, which was great. And I obviously stunk up the course like I normally do. But I said, son, we got to start at the Piegow table because it's a place you can sit and gamble for a long time and not really win a lot or lose a lot. It turned out I kind of was wrong because I sat there for over 6 hours and I won well over $1,000 with a $100 start. So I don't know if that was the right strategy to teach him, but it ended up being nice is having my son kind of look over me, and as I started raising my bets going, Dad, what are you doing? And then hitting a full house and, kind of beating the dealer and getting the props and walking away with the big bankroll, and just seeing him look at me made it all worthwhile.
So it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out fantastic. And I told him, I said, it doesn't always work out that way. Usually you lose, but I taught him, take that money, stick it in your pocket, and walk away.
Very good.
And I did that, which was fantastic. I still have the money, tucked in a drawer somewhere for our next trip.
That sounds awesome. Larry, have you gone? What did you think of that strategy? It sounds pretty interesting.
It's pretty unique. I think parents should introduce their children to the gambling parts instead of them learning it on their own. To get some good advice and opportunity, it's very unique.
That is a good idea, and I'm sure you've taught them the beer drinking aspects of life as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's funny. We also just Sunday went and saw Metallica at Soldier Field here in Chicago. And what I taught him there is I learned this as a young age because there are a lot of concerts in my day that I look at the ticket stub and I go, I don't even remember being here. And my strategy I taught him was like, when you pay, especially nowadays, I think the tickets were approximately $170 a piece.
What?
Is
What?
that, you know what? You
100
want to
what?
remember this forever. So, yeah, we had a couple beers before the show, and I just said, don't overdo it. And how I taught him is I went and bought the last round. I bought myself a water, and I'm telling you, I remember every second of that show, and that's my strategy. It's like, you know what? Some certain times in life, you know, beer is great, but you want to remember that moment. And I wish I could remember every concert I went to, and unfortunately I can't. But I'm older now, and I like to say wiser in most cases. And I taught him that, you know what? There's time to, you know, there's times to drink, and there's time to, you know, have a couple beers and just hang out with your buds. And we had a fantastic time, and it was a great show.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Sounds like you have it all figured out there.
Yeah, right.
You have any questions for Larry about real estate?
What's that?
Do you have any questions for Larry about real estate?
Well, I guess I do. I mean, I'm looking. It's funny is I'm looking to move out of state. I've got a kind of a plan, 4 to 5 years, and I start following real estate now. I'm looking to move to the Colorado region. So what I do now is I put in a search and I get emails from some of the sites, Trulia and Zillow, some of the sites out there, and I just kind of watch the market. Even though I'm in no position to buy, I have an old home here outside of Chicago, so I'm trying to fix it up as much as I can. So other than kind of watching the real estate market out in Colorado where my wife and I want to move someday, is there anything else I should be doing?
Well, you probably should contact a real estate agent out there who can be looking for you for a bargain that may be coming up, someone who has to make a quick move, or a boomer that needs to move or get it relocated to an assisted living place, and that's where you're going to find some bargains because of the quick need of being able to make a decision and buy. So you have to be prepared for it. So when you go in, you will make that offer to them that is pretty fair, and you'll get a good deal.
Good, thank you.
Because
I mean, we went out to Colorado quite a bit, and it's that's where I want to go and retire to, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of watching the market, and you know, when we want to make that move, yeah, I'll definitely take that into account.
And when you're getting your emails from Trulia and then from Zillow, you have to remember one thing: they're using an algorithm, and it's generally 20% higher than it should be because they're not. It's not specific. It just takes a general area of where they get their market data from, and so it's not really true to that particular subdivision. So you really have to do your own research after you find what you want. When they give you an estimate, you need to take a look at it and take 20% off it, and that'll be the right price.
Good. That's great advice. Thank you.
That is good advice. How early in the process do you come to the rescue of someone trying to sell a house?
Well, generally when we're dealing with realtors who refer a lot to us, they've usually had it on the market for 6 months, usually a year. And when you're doing luxury properties, you're looking at 2 to 3 years is when they first contact us. But what we find is if the homeowner would contact us first, we will probably get them sold at the same amount of money a lot sooner. Because what happens is real estate agents set the price based on past sales, history of the sales for that particular area. So they put a number that's whatever it is at the top. You can bet that you will not exceed that at auction because it might be too high, because people sit back. If it's too high, they sit back and wait, when will it come down on price and I'll make my offer. Well, as it keeps coming down, people think that something's wrong with the property because they keep lowering the price. So they need to look at it in the beginning. Like in Australia, their philosophy is take it to auction first. If it doesn't sell, then you list it. That way you find out where the market is, and it sets the parameters for being able to sell.
Interesting, interesting. Now, the auction process itself, is it like a physical auction where you have an auctioneer standing in front of the property?
Absolutely. That's the way we do it. We physically set a time in the future when we're going to sell it, do the marketing and advertising, let people take a look at it on an inspection basis, and then the day of the sale, that we have a set time where they come in and put up their deposit so that they'll be able to bid. Then we take the bidding, and then the seller has the right to say yes or no to the bid. When they do take the bid and accept it, then they have buyer has 30 days to settle, and they're buying on a non-contingency contract for cash with the settlement in 30 days.
Interesting. How many people usually show up at an auction?
It varies depending on the location of the property, either 5 or 50, just depending how popular the area is.
Very
question. Another thought that I've had is perhaps looking at land. I mean, do you have any experience? What I mean by that is, obviously the reason I want to move to Colorado is I want to have, some beautiful property, viewing the mountains and outside of Denver, but not too inside. Do you have any advice on, I mean, is that an option? Perhaps maybe buying a piece of land, maybe a couple of years or a year before we plan to move out there and build the suit ourselves. Is that something that could be more equitable in the long run than buying, someone else's house? Is buying a nice piece of land that we love and building our own property?
Absolutely. If you're able to do that, buying the land now and building the future is probably the best bargain for you, because a lot of land doesn't sell very quickly. It takes the longest thing to sell because most people are not adapted going through the process of building. But if you know where you want to go and you just search that market, you're going to find land that's been on the market 2, 3, 4 years, and you make an offer. Those people are really motivated to sell. So that's the opportune time. You buy it, hold it, and then plan for your building.
Great, thank you.
So you're going to go out there and buy some land and build your own house? What, like a log cabin or something?
Yeah, and that's my dream. My wife and I, that's something we went out to Colorado for a couple trips for health reasons and fell in love with the area. And I'd rather do that if I could. I want to find that piece of land and build our dream house, to semi-retire or whatever. But that's what I prefer to do. And I think it's something like, if you find the right opportunity. My wife's in education; she's a principal, but so there's schools everywhere, which is great. So that would be a good way to start. You buy land. I know you have to pay taxes on it as you own it, but I know the taxes where we're looking are quite low.
Good. Sounds like a good strategy.
Exactly.
There you go. Larry, how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch with us through our website, contact information, or they can just call us direct and talk with us about what they are. Basically, they can get them real estate agents, or who we concentrate on referring stuff to us, so that they can double their income by selling it through us, because we split our fee with them, which is a buyer's premium, which is added onto the top bid amount, so that they can earn more than their normal commission by working through the auction to be able to refer their client to us.
Very good. And your website?
expressauction.com.
expressauction.com. You can get in touch with Larry and learn more about the auction process with real estate there. Well, the show's going so far so good. Very happy. Strategy Television. You're watching the show right here. We've got Larry Makowski here, the closer, and we also have Skyping in from Chicago is my old buddy Chicago Bill from the old beer radio days. It's great to see you. And I'm glad you didn't, knock yourself out to really get dressed up or anything for the show today.
Yeah, but my wife has a strategy of buying things on Nextdoor and Craigslist, so I had to lug a dining room set from a local town today. So it's a good thing you guys can't smell on TV.
Yes, that is good. That is good. You're listening to, you're watching. I'm reverting back to my radio days. You're watching Strategy Television. And we have some more guests on the way. We've got Nancy, who's going to be talking about her business, and it's a very interesting business. You're going to want to stick around for that, and she's coming up next. That's Nancy Fields. She's the CEO of Lice Happens. Okay, so that's going to be your teaser there as to what we're going to be talking about up next on Strategy Television. Chicago, thanks for coming out, and are you going to be staying with us throughout the show?
I think I will. I might have to grab something to eat, but I'll be here.
Okay, you grab something to eat. We'll be back right here on Strategy Television. Stay here.
Miss you, Ray.
Well, September, if you didn't know, is National Lice Awareness Month. I know. Who wants to think about that, right? But most people aren't aware that those little critters of them until they're dealing with a full-on infestation. And as 11 News reporter Megan Pringle tells us, lice are getting harder to treat.
So the little small brown specks here are the eggs. They're also known as nits.
This is what lice looks like off the scalp in different stages of infestation.
They are so small, and they're chameleons. They blend in with the hair shaft.
Those tiny little bloodsuckers can make anyone cringe.
I just didn't know what I was supposed
supposed to do, what I needed to do in the house, what I needed to do to their heads.
That helpless feeling comes at a time when a new study reports most states are overrun by what's often called super lice.
You hear in the news now, everything is talking about super lice. What it is the lice have developed a genetic mutation, so they are resistant to the over-the-counter pesticides, and they are no longer killing all the lice.
That's where businesses like Lice Happens comes in.
There is no such thing as a house or an environment off the head infested with head lice.
They come armed with tools. It's a mobile service of professional nitpickers.
We educate the parents, myths from facts, and we also give them hands-on training so they're able to feel like they're in control after we leave.
They say the best thing a parent can do is thoroughly and regularly comb through your child's scalp. And they also recommend not panicking. There's a lot of misinformation, so we've put a list on our mobile app and website. In Annapolis, Megan Pringle, WBAL, TV 11 News.
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
And we're back with Strategy Television. I'm your host, Ray Hoffman, and glad to have you here with us. And our next guest is our very own entrepreneurial strategist, Nancy Fields, who's the CEO of LiceHappens.com. That's right, LiceHappens.com. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And lice really does happen.
It does happen.
It happens a lot.
So tell me about, or tell everyone about your business.
So Lice Happens, we are actually a mobile service. So our specialists are dispatched to go to families' homes who usually the parents have done everything they can to get rid of the lice infestation in their children's hair, and they've pretty much waved the white flag. So our specialists come in and we screen all family members and we treat by actually doing a thorough manual combing using a safe pesticide-free product. And as subject matter experts, we also educate the parents and give them hands-on training.
How does one become a lice expert?
Well, it took a while. What actually inspired me was an experience with my twin sister. And at the time, her son was 8 years old and her daughter was 10. Long, straight, beautiful hair. And she had noticed that her children were scratching and itching. She's thinking, okay, maybe it's the detergent, maybe it's a different shampoo I used. It's the allergy, different, seasonal something. And she ended up taking the children to the pediatrician's office for something unrelated. And a big fat louse, which is singular for lice, just crossed right over my niece's part.
Oh, wow.
So my sister, of course, felt like I am the worst parent on the planet. How could I let my little darlings, have head lice? But what she did is she went to the internet and printed out a page and a half of what to do about head lice on the head, in the home, bought an over-the-counter product, followed the directions meticulously, went above and beyond. And long story short, she was not able to get rid of it. So she kind of experienced what a lot of parents experience. And out of desperation one day, I'm just minding my own business, and she called me as a sister. I need your help now. So I went over to my sister's job, picked up her children, because they weren't allowed in school at the time, and then proceeded to pluck hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that did not belong in the hair, and then a couple things that are alive still. And hours later, when my sister returned, she's like, "That is not supposed to be alive." And she's like, "What am I supposed to do? I have to use this pesticide again. It tells me not to." And it inspired me to think there's got to be a better process. And with that thought, I found that when my sister had printed out all this information from the internet, it was misinformation. A lot of it was misinformation. So ended up having to really look at what the process was, tackling it, and came up with a better way. So our specialists now that are employees of Lice Happens, we teach them the better way. As one of my specialists said, Lice Happens has cracked the code when it comes to head lice infestations.
There you go. How many people do you have working for you?
So we have 25 employees, and those 25 employees kind of cover, headquarters is in Annapolis, Maryland. So we help families in a large part of Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. So that number of people kind of takes care of that region. And we've started to franchise on, on a reasonable kind of slow scale. So I would say right now there's probably around 50 people involved in Lice Happens.
That is so interesting. And you have enough business to keep you busy.
Yes, we do. And that's always surprising.
Where do lice come from?
So actually, lice have been around for a long time. Lice have been around since we were covered head to toe with hair. And it's kind of interesting because without getting into too much detail, there are different types of human head lice through the years that researchers and scientists are actually looking at the DNA of the different types of lice to see about the evolution of man. So they have pretty much figured out how to hold on to a human head, and therefore we call them head lice. Any of our viewers, if you're wondering, the good news and bad news is, the bad news is that they are head lice. The good news is that they cannot survive off the human head.
Oh, well, that's good to know. We're talking to Nancy Fields, the CEO of Lice Happens, and very interesting. So what did you do before this incredible business you put
Well,
together?
at the time, I was actually in IT, information technology. And as I mentioned, I was just minding my own business. At the time, my position was a software quality process analyst. And so I think when I ended up dealing with my nieces and nephew, that process-oriented background inspired me to think there's just got to be a better way. The funny thing is that early on when I was working Lice Happens, it was kind of owner-operator. So I was actually taking the phone calls, I was dispatching myself, and there was a father who was just amazed at the service. And he's like, "What did you do before?" And I said, "I was actually in IT." And this might be an inside joke, but he said, "Wow, this makes perfect sense. You went from IT to NIT." So it was probably a transition that was meant to be.
That's terrific. And it seems like you've made that transition very nicely. What do you recommend to people that are trying to find a new niche in life, or to convert from IT to a different type of business situation? Do you have any advice? I mean, I'm sure there were a few pitfalls along the way.
Oh, wow, yes, pitfalls, that's for sure. But I think that, I could have been content doing what I was doing. I had a job. This was during a time, we started Lice Happens in 2009, so this was during the recession. And I didn't have a passion for the work I was doing, but I certainly appreciated it. And, this silly bug created a passion in my life. And I just saw that there was a need, and it inspired me to find a solution. So I think any time that one is looking for something else to do, it can inspire someone to kind of look at what is needed out there. What do I love to do, and how can that meet someone else's need, or how can that meet someone else's want? And you put a little thought into that and take some risks, and you may be surprised that can turn into something that is a full-time job. And a job that you have a passion for it's more than making money. Sometimes you make less money, sometimes you make more money, but you certainly increase your quality of life.
Talk about a typical client that you might have.
So a typical client that we have is very much like my sister. Absolutely appalled that their children have head lice, and they're also very concerned that people are judging them, that the reason their children have head lice is because they've done something wrong. Their house isn't clean, their children aren't clean. So there's a certain amount of shame involved and a concern about being blamed for what's going on. So they usually make a beeline to the drugstore or to the pediatrician's office, and they're trying to apply something to the head that will kill these creatures, like a magic wand. And they, like I mentioned about my sister, is that they can read directions and follow them meticulously. What they're not realizing, very similar to bacteria and antibiotics, is that there's been building a natural resistance. So head lice have become more and more naturally resistant to the pesticides that are out there. So these products, where they may have been more effective in the past, they're not as effective now. And it's really quite confusing for parents because they're doing everything to the house, to the heads, what have you. So at this point, they're tired, they're discouraged, they're frustrated, and they're actually not even recognizing who they are anymore because we not only call it a life crisis, we call it a little bit of a life crisis. So at that point, they're looking for a better way, and they're finding us through maybe pediatricians, professional referral sources, people that work with children, they know about Lice Happens, or they might just desperately be searching on the internet and they find our website. So at the point that they find Lice Happens, they've done everything and they just want their life back, and we can give them that.
So through internet searches and referrals, do you do any other marketing?
So with our business, it's interesting because in the beginning we used to put ads out like in family magazines. But what we find is that when someone's seen an ad about head lice infestation, they're like, that will never happen to my family because I keep a good house and my children are clean. So they're not retaining that information. They don't think they're ever going to need that. So it's most beneficial to market, to spend our dollars on digital marketing, having a presence on the internet. So when someone is searching for help, they're going to find our website.
Yeah, sounds terrific. Sounds like you found your passion and you're very excited about it. It's terrific.
Yes, we kind of found our itch niche.
You did. You did. Very fascinating. Thank you so much we have a few more minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
So, well, I think as far as, here we are on Strategy TV. I'm just so pleased to be a guest. And I think part of it is that when one is starting a business, I did never realize I was going to be an entrepreneur. But I think as far as a business goes is do what you have a passion for, but know what you're doing. And chances are what you're doing may not necessarily be unique. You can learn from others that are doing a similar type of business, but then you want to identify what is unique about your business. How can you have a competitive advantage? And stick to it. Decide how you're going to provide better value, better service. Because when you decide that, make that decision, then whatever else is going on around you, you don't have to worry about so much. You just concentrate on doing what you do as well as you can. And that, I think, will take you far.
Any professional training that you had to overcome before you really became an expert at this?
So actually, I learned it the hard way by trial and error. And but it's interesting when we're training our specialists, we have products and we have tools, and it's not about just giving someone, here's a product and here's a tool, go forth and conquer head lice. There's actually a lot of training involved because it's very process oriented. So I remember early on when we were trying to figure out what our process was, I was telling my business partner, I'm like, we've got to develop a repeatable process that renders repeatable results regardless who does it. And so we're actually training our specialists in terms of the process, using the tools, the quality standard, and also in how we interact with our customers. Customer care is absolutely essential to the success of Lice Happens. We give greater customer care than any of our competitors. And so it's really teaching them the Lice Happens way. And it takes a lot of resources to train a specialist. But we say, you know what? The joke is I'm a nitpicker. My parents are so proud. But it ends up being a profession that our specialists can be very proud about because they're subject matter experts. And so when a person is entering a home who's a stranger, they're bringing this presence of professionalism and calmness and expertise, and that makes all the difference. So there's a lot of training and therefore a lot to be proud of when you actually become an expert.
Thank you so much for coming on Strategy Television.
My pleasure.
And it's very exciting.
Please invite me again. I would love to spend more time with you.
We definitely will.
Take care.
Thank you very much. And up next on Strategy Television, we've got an old friend from Beer Radio. Stu Smith will be in studio to talk to us about what he's been up to right here on Strategy Television.
I'm a firm believer that our lives are a sine wave. There's ups and downs through all of our lives. Unfortunately, 13 years of combat has put some people in some really, really low places. We would love to be the first place that people come to. Unfortunately, you can't always get to them. So as long as they get here, whether it's first or last, I'm happy because I'm confident this experience is going to change their lives.
Boulder Crest Retreat is the nation's first privately funded rural wellness center dedicated exclusively to our nation's combat veterans and their families. We are committed to improving the physical, emotional, spiritual, and economic well-being of this remarkable community of heroes, and ensuring they have the opportunity to succeed in their new mission, a life of passion, purpose, and service here at home. We do so in our 2 free signature programs, Family R&R Stays, which allow combat veterans and their families to stay in one of our beautiful cabins, and our PATH programs, which are 3, 5, and 7-day programs designed to facilitate the process of post-traumatic growth and transform struggle into strength. The retreat is located on 37 idyllic acres set in the foothills of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, just 50 miles west of Washington, D.C. The rural setting of the retreat is critical to the rest, reconnection, and recharging process, and holds a special connection to our nation's service members and veterans, many of whom hail from rural settings. The retreat provides our guests and program participants with a safe, tranquil, and sacred environment where they can escape the stresses of daily life, decompress, and begin planning for their future and the life they deserve. Boulder Crest Retreat features 4 fully ADA accessible cabins where combat veterans and their families have the opportunity to stay at no charge and participate in a wide range of programs, all aimed towards healing our military members, veterans, and their families. We know that combat veterans can accomplish remarkable feats in the aftermath of war, and that they possess unique skills, strengths, and abilities that we desperately need here at home. We are committed to unlocking that potential and ensuring that these men and women have the chance to live the great lives they deserve. Join us.
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
And we're back on Strategy Television. I'm Ray Hoffman, your host, and the guest we have, another alumni of Beer Radio, Stu Smith, StuSmith.com. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Ray. Good to see you. I'm used to not seeing you.
That's right. It was so much better at radio. We wouldn't see each other, but you're, of course, our military fitness strategist, and
Sure.
I remember you were always whipping us in shape 10 years ago with Beer Radio.
That was good stuff, you know.
It
Work
was.
hard, play hard.
That's right. That's right.
That's the way it works.
What have you been up to? What are you up to now?
You know, I'm really focused on still military, law enforcement, firefighter fitness. In fact, since Beer Radio, it has been coined tactical fitness.
Tactical?
Yeah, so when I heard that term, I'm like, publisher, on the phone. We got to write a book called Tactical Fitness right now, you know. So that was one of my latest books, Tactical Fitness, and yeah, we're just still doing it.
That's
terrific. Trying to prepare people for the military, get them to and through the training, as well as once they're active duty, you know, maintain and recover and stress mitigation. You know, everything's included.
So you have an entire strategy to get folks ready to.
Oh, absolutely.
To
yeah.
be ready for the job.
I would say, you know, it goes in 3 parts. Well, first, you have to get to the training.
Right.
Right? And so that means passing a fitness test, right? And meeting a height weight standard. You know, and usually, depending on what you're training for, if it's regular military, might be, you know, not that hard to reach. If it's a special ops level program, you know, a little more competitive, higher standards. might take some time to just to pass the fitness test to get to it. And then once you get to it, you get the word, all right, you're going to go to SEAL training in 6 months. Now you got to train to get through the training, which is a completely different level. Then, once you finish that training, there's a section of recovery and everything, and then it's all about, maintaining your fitness level so you can have some longevity in this new career, because you're going to spend most of that career older than you are younger. If you think about it, in the course of 20 years, if you start at 22, you're going to spend about 8 years of that young, right? After 30, you get a little banged up, and now you got to learn some, recovery techniques and, some strategies for just being, having some longevity in your a very physical life.
So your typical client, is it going to be a young person, or do you?
You know what? I have recently created a program called Tactical Fitness for the athlete over 40. And it was just a kind of an idea that I had, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a market for me. But if you think about, when I first started this in 98, those guys are now near 40. If they were 18 to 20 years old then, they're getting close to 40 now and need a little bit of that, new programming and, mobility, flexibility, has to be considered more, especially after potentially years of traumatic injuries, whether it's, falling or it's actual overtraining or whatever. So yeah, it's, I focus on the earlier group, primarily 18 to 25, but I just noticed there's a older group like me who are looking for some ideas for training. So and keeping moving and still being able to compete with the younger guys. So.
Walk us through a typical day of how you're training someone.
Well, I run a program here in Severna Park. At the Severna Park Community Center. It's a free program. So anybody who wants to serve gets free training. And we start at 6 a.m. We finish at 8 a.m. And typically it is a calisthenic or weightlifting workout. And then we'll go run, or depending on where they are on the running scale, that might put them on the bike or elliptical, if they need to progress into running. And then we swim, especially for the guys who are looking to go into more of the special ops side of things that require more swimming tests. So.
What about the older guys? Are they looking just to be fit? Are they like businessmen, or are they actually in some of the trades like law enforcement?
Yes, they're all military, law enforcement, firefighters. In fact, the older guys are usually banged up firefighters who come join us, SWAT team guys, and we get some bomb squad guys that come in, and they're in their 50s. Working out with. I'm almost in my 50s now. Yeah. I got 2 more years for that.
Yeah, me too.
But they're still getting after it. Still getting after it with the young guys. And the one thing that we do add, we'll throw in an option in there for the older guys and for the younger guys who are banged up. We'll throw in a mobility day middle of the week. So if you're not banged up, you'll go for a long run some hills, do some sprints. Come back at 7 o'clock and we all swim together. If you are banged up, we'll go into a non-impact option where we'll bike, we'll elliptical, we'll row, do something like that for 5 minutes, and then we'll stretch and foam roll for 5 minutes. And we do that 5 times while the other group's running. And then we all go swim together. And I tell you what, it has made all the difference in the world. Taking that one day and taking out a long, crazy run where I'm banging up my joints. I actually leave that weight room, and so all the other older guys do. We leave that weight room and gym at 8 o'clock in the morning, and nothing hurts. So, when's the last time you could say that, nothing hurts on me right now? Everything hurts on you. Typically, especially at 6 in the morning, you're kind of stiff, your back hurts, your knee hurts, your head hurts, or whatever. It's just... if you can leave a weight room and nothing hurt, you're starting on a program where it's going to work for you, and you're going to see the results and see the stress recovery and inflammation recovery, and all of that stuff will come into play.
What's some good advice for just a typical person just trying to get in shape that hasn't really been active for a while?
You know what? I say treat yourself like a beginner all the time. So, if let's say you're a former athlete 20 years ago, right? You don't want to go jump into one of those old weight room workouts and running workouts that you used to do 20 years ago. So you actually want to treat yourself like a beginner, maybe even just walk, and drink more water. Start yourself off right there for a couple of weeks. Just walk a little more, drink a little more water, right? And then let's evolve into the next level where we're starting to add calisthenics or maybe some weight training, some light circuits and some, additional cardio, and, maybe build up to 10 to 20 to 30 minutes over a course of about a month or so. And until you get yourself, next thing you know, you're at a 45-minute workout and you're losing 20 pounds since you started, and you're starting to see some results.
Tell us about a success story. Somebody that just came to you completely out of shape, really needed to work. And
you know what? I've had several. Probably my very first one was a 52-year-old priest who wanted to join the Navy and be a chaplain, right? And so he was 80 pounds overweight, 280 pounds, about a 5'6", 280 pounds. And he had to get down to below 200 pounds to meet the height weight standards of the Navy and pass a fitness test, right? So I didn't even start him running. We were just walking and eating, watching what we ate and drink more water. And, so long story short, a year later, took a year, he lost 80 pounds. I was part of his commissioning ceremony when he commissioned into the Navy. He served 16 years in the Navy and still works as a contracted chaplain, a Catholic priest in the Navy, and he lives right here in Annapolis.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
That is really...
Father Hogue, he's my first success story. And you know what? After him, and I give him all the credit, after him, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I know him. Him.
Father Hogue, St. Mary's.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Yeah. That is a terrific story.
Yeah, thanks.
That is a terrific story. We're also going to, so how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, my name is Stu Smith, StuSmith.com. Also have StuSmithFitness.com. And you spell Stu like S-T-E-W, like the soup.
Okay.
And that's how you find me.
That's terrific. And we're going to, then this is this segment of
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
And we're back with Strategy Television. I'm your host, Ray Hoffman. And now we have our next guest, kid singer Jim. He's a children's entertainment strategist, and he's from childrensmusic.com. Welcome, Jim.
Good to be here, Ray.
Tell us a little bit about your strategy and what you do.
I travel around and I sing for kids in all different places. Today I was at a special education camp over in Delaware. Sometimes I go to preschools. I go to elementary schools. This time of year, summer camps. And I sing mostly original songs that I've composed to try to convey positive messages to kids and show them a good time and get them singing and moving. I like to have the kids get up and dance at a lot of my performances, and which is really fun with the real little guys. And just try to create a positive environment for them to have a good time.
Sounds like fun. How did you get started?
Well, after I graduated from University of Maryland, I took a singing class in my senior year and just fell in love with music, and it was new to me. And so I decided to move to Austin, Texas. I was a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I read about him in a guitar magazine, and he talked about how cool a music town Austin, Texas was. So I packed my Chevy Nova with all my belongings and drove across the country and landed in Austin. And my goal was to be a lead singer in a rock band. But I was also learning to play guitar, learning to write songs. And I was singing in bands, and I was living out in the country, and I wrote a song one day about daddy long leg spiders. And I sang it for a musician friend of mine a few weeks later, and she said, you ever thought about making that a children's song? And that was the moment that I kind of decided, thinking about it, and I decided to change course, because I found that my writing style seemed to fit children's songs, and I would call it a simplistic understanding of music, because I started in music rather late, that I wrote songs based on, I wrote songs by ear, basically. So I would play the different chords on the guitar and just start singing, and however the song came out, it came out. And I think children have that same innate understanding of music, so it seemed to work.
That's a very cool talent to have, to be able to do that too. So do you come up with songs as you're performing sometimes, or just
not so much as I'm
audience?
Performing? When I'm in situations being around kids, one of my songs is called "Get Outside and Play," and I wrote the song based on an experience at a neighborhood picnic. I was at a friend's house, and the parents were sitting around, and all the kids were outside playing, having a great time. It was a beautiful day. And then I went inside the house to get something to drink, and I saw a couple kids on the couch playing video games. And right then I just had the song, and then I wrote it based on that experience. I think I started to write it there at the party in my head, and the sing-along line is, don't be a couch potato. So
oh, that's cool.
I encourage kids to not to spend too much time indoors, watching TV, video games, on the computer, and to just get outside, and not even necessarily doing organized sports, which is fine. I grew up playing a lot of organized sports, but now I do more just getting outside, biking, kayaking, and I encourage them to just play at the playground, just do things to stay active.
Cool. What are how many songs have you written, do you think?
It's probably around 30. One of the things that happens when you become a professional performer, as much as I love writing songs, when I get into the performing mode, that tends to take over, and it tends to kind of squash the creativity a little bit. So there have been times when I've been real busy performing that I haven't been as productive on the songwriting end, but it kind of comes and goes. I'll go through a stretch where I'll start writing, and then it starts to pick up. But I have definitely over 30 songs. I can't even keep track, because I have some that are unfinished that I keep going back to, and some that I haven't recorded yet.
Do you have a favorite?
Daddy Longlegs is always going to be my favorite because it's the song that led me to my career in singing for kids. And I tell kids, if you can, do something by accident and it becomes, something that you end up going with, sometimes that's the best way to find your career, I find, is you go with your heart. And I was following my passion for music, but I had no idea that I would end up singing for kids. And it's just, when I perform at schools sometimes and I talk to kids about, they might say, well, how did you, get into doing what you do? I like to share that story because I was following my passion, but sometimes you find it takes you someplace even better than you thought you would ever get to. And that's the way I feel about children's music for me.
Very cool. How many gigs do you have a year, approximately? How often do you work?
Well, I have. It depends on the season. Like the summertime has always been my busiest time because a lot of preschools have summer camps where they have kids in the summer that they might not have during the school year, and the preschools like to have entertainment a lot. They have more kids, and so in the summer I have gigs pretty much every day, every weekday, and my all-time high, I still remember one month of July I had 45 performances in 1 month. And but in my career in 25 years, I'm closing in on 4,000 performances.
Wow, that's terrific. How difficult is it to engage with children? I know it's with, like you said, with the different screens and the telephones they use and video games and everything. Is that a challenge now?
I don't think so. I think that what I find is that you just have to be flexible. Every performance has its own dynamic, and what you've done before may not necessarily work. So I just try to be in tune with the atmosphere of the room, the way the kids are, whether they're older kids, younger kids, and I just look for different ways to engage the kids. And once I start to engage them, even if this is more common with older kids, they tend to be a little more standoffish and, oh, this is baby music, or they see a guy with a guitar, but as soon as I start to get them to sing along and engage, then it tends to kind of go from that, and then they get into it, and they start to have fun, and then it just builds from there.
How long is a typical performance?
45 minutes is pretty typical. Sometimes it can be shorter for younger kids, but sometimes it goes longer. It really depends. An elementary school, the 45 minutes is pretty standard, and can be that way for preschools. But
very nice.
Little guys might not last as long, but that's okay.
Right. How can folks get in touch with you?
Childrensmusic.com is my website, and I have an easy to remember toll-free number as well, 888-KIDS-MUSIC. So people can reach me there.
Very good. And you're going to be playing some of the music in the after party, I understand.
Yes. I'll be singing some of my original songs.
Very good. Very good.
Including Daddy Longlegs.
Sounds great. Kid singer Jim, children's entertainment strategist. And we're going to take this party outside around and it's going to be nice. We're going to revisit all of our guests from today and have some more fun right here on Strategy Television.
All right, children, time for bed. It is adult time. The Strategy Television After Party at the Fire Pit will begin after this brief video intermission. Please stand by.
Stu Smith. People often ask me about doing calisthenics mixed with weights, doing other types of products. One thing I have found is the TRX, actually made by a former Navy SEAL buddy of mine, and I call it fitness in a bag. And I love this thing. I wrote an article about it on my website. They sent me one of these things to try out. And I actually got rid of about 400 pounds of weight equipment, a bench, a squat rack, and I replaced it with this thing. And I'm going to show you why right now. Let me show you how you hook this thing up. Grab yourself a pull-up bar. You can also do it on a door jamb if you want. Wrap this thing a couple times, hook it in here. I don't know if you ever jumped out of an airplane, but this looks just like a static line. The guy who invented this was a parachute rigger in the Navy. All right, so there's a few exercises I want to show you. This one I use as a warm-up to my workout, but it can also be a workout for you too if you make it a little harder. Now I like to mix in everything into this workout. I lean back like 45-degree angle. Now the further you lean back, the harder this is going to get when you're doing a row, obviously. For right now I'm just going to show you like 45-degree angle lean with, I'm going to mix a squat with a row on this one. So it's a squat and a row. I'm going to lean back just a little more. So squat and row. Now you should do like 5 to 10 of these, right? And all you're looking for is squat, pull yourself right through the handles like that. Now, next one I go into, still doing a squat, warming up the legs, gonna do a bicep curl. So squat and a bicep curl. Gonna do, once again, 5 to 10 of these. And the more you do, the more it becomes a workout and not a warm-up. Now next, gonna do a squat with a reverse fly. Gonna work the upper back. Squat and reverse fly. Squat, reverse fly. You're gonna feel that in between the shoulder blades. Ah, good one. Now, another one I like to do is the high row. This one looks like a squat, and you take it straight up. Squat, and take it straight up. I'll tell you what, you're definitely using your abs and lower back and your upper body in this one. Good, all rear deltoid exercises. Those are the first 4 I like to do. Then I like to flip it around. Now, notice this is just like a push-up. Stability's gone, so you got to really focus on keeping your arms stable. So if you notice, this is just like a bench press. You want to make it a little harder, bring it on down this way. Now you're doing more like a body weight exercise. Okay. And once again, 5 to 10 of those. Now bring it up out here. We're going to stretch it out. Oh, good tricep stretch here. Now we're just going to do a tricep extension. And this one, you will really feel. If you're trying to get rid of those bingo arms, this will do it for you. Really work the back side of your arms well, stretching and flexing. All right, the grand finale I call the atomic push-up. Actually, I don't call it that, they do. It's a great exercise. I have done this one before in a few videos, but basically, you're suspended and you're doing a push-up. But you're gonna add in a knee up version of that. You can do this 5, 10 times. You can make it a pike pose, still do your push-up. Come out to the left, come out to the right, back and forth.
That
And
looks like a lot of fun.
once again, it does create a stir when people see you do it. So, I've never been winded doing abs before until I used this TRX. It's a fun little exercise. I highly recommend it. Check out my website, stewsmith.com. Go onto the site map and you'll see an article I wrote where I compare this device with a $1,200 Olympic weight set. And you can do so much more. In fact, I'm still counting all the exercises I can do on this thing. Right now I'm about 250. So hang in there, good luck, keep moving. Fitness is a journey, not always a a destination. So remember, live to compete, not just survive. Stu Smith out.
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
The first time around.
We're good to go. Let's go.
I know a boy, he's really cool, very popular at his school. But when it's late at night and the lights go out, he starts to scream and he starts to shout. Well, his hands start shaking and his knees are quaking. Yeah, his hands start shaking and his knees are quaking. And we told him, don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's okay. A lot of boys and girls used to be that way. Don't be afraid of the dark. Well, I know a girl, she's really tough. She plays ball with the boys and it gets rough. When it's late at night and time to go to bed, she pulls those covers up over her head. Well, her hands start shaking and her knees are quaking. Yeah, her hands start shaking and her knees are quaking. And we told her, don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's okay. A lot of boys and girls used to be that way. Don't be afraid of the dark. I know a brother and sis, they are friends of mine. They like scaring each other all the time. But when their playtime's done and it's time to sleep, they don't make a sound, not even a peep. Well, their hands start shaking and their knees are quaking. Yeah, their hands start shaking and their knees are quaking. We told them, don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's okay. A lot of boys and girls used to be that way. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark.
That was terrific, Jim. It's one of your songs to help kids not be afraid of the dark.
That's right.
That's good. How'd you come up with that one?
That one actually started out, I wanted to write a rap song, but it didn't turn out so well. So I changed it back to I wrote music for it, so it worked. I like it better with guitar.
That is cool.
Than
You
the
tried rap. Do you have any other rap songs?
I have written one other rap song recently for my puppet show.
Okay.
And it's I really like it. It's a song of, we have a hippopotamus character, and I call her a hip hop potamus.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
That is terrific. So, what other genres you have?
You know, the thing about the nice thing about children's music is it can be any musical genre works for kids. They don't have, a lot of adults have favorites. You know, they'll say, I like country and I don't like rap, or I like rock and roll, I don't like jazz. Adults get very opinionated. Kids are open to anything, so you can sing them a song about that's got a jazzy feel or a country feel or rock, pop, whatever. It's very liberating as a songwriter, and I tend to just let the song take its own direction when I'm writing it, and whatever it feels like to me it should have, the style of music, I just go with it. And kids like it if it's a good song, not if it's got a certain musical style or genre.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for Kid Singer Jim?
I do.
Okay.
Do I turn this on?
Yes.
So Jim, you were telling me that the kids enjoy your songs. How can you tell that kids are enjoying it? Do they tend to get up and dance, or what do they do?
They'll get up and dance is one of the biggest ways, or they'll sing along as the song develops, like that song I just sang. As they hear the chorus again, sometimes they'll start to sing. But dancing's probably the best way. For the little kids, one of the best things, because I do original music primarily, I am enjoying the kids sort of like the parents do when they're just dancing to the music. And the best ones are the kids that are just old enough to start walking. They're kind of, bobbing around, and then they just do the funniest dances, and I like to look at the expressions of the parents as they're watching their kids have fun and do a funny dance move.
Well, do you find that you turn parents into kids as well?
I think they're often, one of the harder things I think is to get them to enjoy the show with the kids. They tend to many times to just sit back and watch their kids have fun. And sometimes I catch myself saying, kids come on out and dance, and then I have to remind myself and say, parents are welcome to come out and dance with their kids. And when they do that, I think they have more fun and the kids like it too, because then their parents are holding their hand and dancing with them, and that's some of the best times when they start to dance too.
You have any kids yourself?
I do. One of the ways I mark the time in my career is through my children's lives, because when they were very little is when I was writing many of my songs. So I have a song called Stickers that was written when my daughter went through what I like to call the sticker phase, where she really got into putting stickers on everything in her room, on her mirror, on her dresser, on her toys, on her bed, herself. And so I wrote a song about stickers, and the nice thing about that is every time I sing it, I think of her. So now she's 26 now. She was 6. She was real young when I first got started. 1 year old, I guess, when I first started singing for kids. So now she has a son. So I have a grandson that's 20 months, and so I get to enjoy his growing up from a different perspective now as a grandfather.
That is awesome. Hey, Chicago Bill, you got a question for Kid Singer Jim?
It's funny you say that, as I play guitar and I try to get my kids into guitar, and but I have to say though, the cool thing about music is, my son, for instance, has a grasp on all kinds of music. Like, for instance, to this day, my kids can't hear "Oh Blah Dee Blah Da" without thinking about Dad driving them to school. And whether it's songs that I have done or songs that I have kind of brought them with, I just love when my kids bring up the fact that, Dad turned them on to good music. So music is very important to me, and I'm glad it's important to my kids. And I love what you do, and I love to hear more what you do. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with your work until today. and I would love to hear more. My kids are growing up now, but what I've heard, it doesn't. I think it's for all ages.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's always been one of my beliefs, is that a good song is a good song, and sometimes I get put into a box because I write songs for children, but I find that if you judge a song based on the way you would any pop song, does it stick in your head? Is the chorus memorable? Do you find yourself singing it when the music's not playing? And I do hear that from a lot of parents, that they say, I played this in the van for kids. I played your CD for months, but I find myself secretly listening to it when they're not even in the car. And I get a big kick out of that when I hear stories like that from the parents.
I feel the same way. A lot of those childhood memories of watching Thomas the Tank Engine, or even more recently that movie Cars. I've got a couple of teens now, but we certainly went and saw Cars 3 when it came out last Friday for a nice kickoff for Dad's Day weekend. We saw that, and we were just brought all those memories back from when they were little kids watching Cars.
Can you guys switch my feed so I can see you guys outside? Is there any possible way I can do that?
No, you don't need to see us, Chicago Bill. Just pretend it's radio, man.
Okay. Well, that's better when I'm thinking about Ray.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left in this segment. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Hey, Bill, why don't you tap into the live stream? Why don't you watch it on another laptop? You can see.
Nancy, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Hi, Bill. How are you?
How are you, hon? It's funny, as I don't know if you knew this, when I was, a lot of people that I did that reality show Faking It, and what a lot of people didn't understand is I was under a lot of stress. My wife had put her hand through a window and cut it really bad, so she had no use of her right hand. And of course, the next day, both my daughters came down with lice. So I was in California, winging it, doing a TV show out at these restaurants, drinking every night, and my wife was stuck at home. Luckily, my mom and her sister had to come and obviously wash all the sheets and I'll do all that. It'd have been great to have someone like
Bill,
you come and help.
We got to cut you off. We got to cut you off just like we used to do at Beer Radio.
And that's almost was my breaking point in the
segment's
show.
We're going to be
where
back with more
I
Strategy
said
Television
either
after
I'm
the
going
show.
to this Bears game, watch this Bears game tonight, or I'm going home because my wife needs me. But it would have been nice to be able to call someone and say, "Go help my wife." So I think you're doing a great service, and I think it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
To remember much about us. No company is. And so we have to be really clear on what we want them to know about us. Now, Apple, fortunately, is one of the half a dozen best brands in the whole world. Right up there with Nike, Disney, Coke, Sony. It is one of the greats of the greats, not just in this country, but all around the globe. And but even a great brand needs investment and caring if it's going to retain its relevance and vitality. And the Apple brand has clearly suffered from neglect in this area in the last few years. And we need to bring it back. The way to do that is not to talk about speeds and feeds. It's not to talk about MIPS and megahertz. It's not to talk about why we're better than Windows. The dairy industry tried for 20 years to convince you that milk was good for you. It's a lie, but they tried anyway. And the sales were going like this. And then they tried Got Milk, and the sales are going like this. Got Milk doesn't even talk about the product. Matter of fact, it focuses on the absence of the product. But the best example of all, and one of the greatest jobs of marketing that the universe has ever seen is Nike. Remember, Nike sells a commodity. They sell shoes. And yet, when you think of Nike, you feel something different than a shoe company. In their ads, as you know, they don't ever talk about the product. They don't ever tell you about their air soles and why they're better than Reebok's air soles. What does Nike do in their advertising? They honor great athletes and they honor great athletics. That's who they are. That's what they are about.
So what are you doing?
Ready.
Apple's
Okay.
under fortune.
Jim, get ready.
You'd never know. You'd never know. So when I got here, Apple just fired their agency. They're doing a competition with 23 agencies that, 4 years from now to pick one. And we blew that up, and we we hired Chiate, the ad agency that I was fortunate enough to work with years ago. We created some award-winning work, including the commercial voted the best ad ever made in 1984 by advertising professionals. And we started working about 8 weeks ago. And the question we asked was, our customers want to know who is Apple and what is it that we stand for? Where do we fit in this world? And what we're about isn't making boxes for people to get their jobs done, although we do that well. We do that better than almost anybody in some cases. But Apple's about something more than that. Apple, at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. That's what we believe. And we've had the opportunity to work with people like that. We've had an opportunity to work with people like you, with software developers, with customers who have done it in some big and some small ways. And we believe that in this world, people can change it for the better. And that those people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
Here we go. And we are back with Strategy Television, and we've got Kid Singer Jim with another selection for us here.
It's called Happy With Me.
Very cool song. That's Kid Singer Jam with another one of his songs, Happy. And tell us about that song. What's the background to that one?
That one is I wrote some songs for older kids. I when I was first recording, I did one album for younger kids, despite what I said before about any song can work with any age, but I wanted to target different subject matter for different age kids, and so I was teaching part-time at the time, and so working with in a pre-K through grade 8 environment, I was working with all these different grades, and so I was targeting songs about different things that those kids were going through because they were older than my own children. So that was a song that I wrote for the middle school age kids that might be having a little trouble with confidence, and I wanted to give them a song that they would remember how important it is for them to like themselves just the way that they are, and not be influenced too much by others, peer pressure, and having to follow the crowd.
Very cool. Yeah, those middle school years, that's a tough crowd
Yeah.
right there.
It is.
Very tough crowd. Do you ever go to high schools?
No, the closest I came, I've never done a performance at a high school, but I did do a career fair at Bowie High School in my town where I live in Bowie, and that was kind of neat because then the kids were really interested in the career of, I was in a music classroom, so I was talking about the idea of going to do unusual things in music. Not just, a lot of kids, I think they think there's the pop music world, or doing only adult music, and I introduced them to the concept of going and singing for kids as an alternative career as a musician.
Terrific. Anybody have questions for Kid Singer Jim? I know Jen does. Oh, go ahead.
So Jim, why don't you tell me a little bit about the process involved in protecting this wonderful work you do as far as your intellectual property?
Wow, that's a good one. I think, by the way copyright works, as I understand it, is when you create something, it's automatically protected. When you put it out there, in the old days, there was this thing called a poor man's copyright, where you could actually mail yourself a CD, or back in those days a cassette tape of songs that you had recorded. You would mail it to yourself, and then the postmark would be your protection. You wouldn't open it. So if anyone ever came along and tried to take one of your songs, or then you could do that, but even that is really not necessary. You just have to begin using it, and like, you put it out there and you have a record of it existing at a certain
Oh, that's good to know. So not a lot of legal fees or anything involved.
No, you can go through the steps of actually copyrighting it, but it's more, the most important thing is to use it, to show that you've used it.
Very good.
As I understand it, I'm no attorney.
It's an excellent question. Have any other artists used any of your music? Or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But that wouldn't necessarily, if someone has permission, I wouldn't mind. It's a way of getting it out there if other people were to sing it.
And you've mentioned CDs. How many CDs have you put out?
2 that I originally released, and then I'm in the process of actually re-recording the songs all over again. And that's been an interesting exercise.
What's that process?
I just wanted the songs have been around, and the technology and recording and the way that I recorded them initially were not quite as what I would like for the long term. So I just decided to go back in with fresh musicians. With the drums on my original recording were a drum machine. I wanted to go in with a real drummer, and I met some fantastic musicians, and I've been in the studio for a couple months now.
Oh, that
That's a lot
sounds
of
like
fun.
That sounds like fun. Where did you find the musicians?
Different places. The bass player I met through a friend, and then he recommended a drummer, and then and I found a studio I liked in Savage Mill, and it's been great. The hardest thing is just trying to recapture the the magic of the songs, I guess you could say, from the original recordings, and trying to hit. My goal was to hit all the same notes after 20 years singing, to be able to hit the same high notes, and so far I've succeeded.
What you talked about the career fair. What advice would you have for someone to get into a kids song situation?
Just go out and start doing it. Volunteer at first is what I would say. Go to your local library, go to a preschool, call ahead, and if you're a music student and you want to get, the children can be your most challenging audience that you've ever had, because they don't really have a filter. If you're not good, they'll get up and they'll start playing with toys, or they'll let you know right away if you're doing a good job. But on the other hand, they don't act like you might expect them to. Sometimes I used to get offended when the kids would be off playing and doing other things, and then I realized that they have the ability to play and listen at the same time. Adults, they're very visual. They want to watch the performer all the time. But with kids, a lot of times they will go off, they'll dance with their friends, and you think they're not really paying attention, but they really are. They're just able to. They're not always focused on the visual. They want to enjoy their time with their friends.
What can you think of one of your most, what's the word, the most fun performance you ever had?
Wow.
That you would like to recreate?
I don't know. I can't think of one in particular, because there's so many that are equally fun. It's just the way walking into a room. Most of the time, still after all these performances, I'm working with kids, and because you have a new audience every year with children, that walking into a room with a bunch of kids, with 30, 50, 100 kids that have never heard my music before, and then have them singing and dancing, it's just such a thrill that never gets old.
What about alumni of your music? Somebody that remembers you from 20 years ago. What's that experience like?
That's always neat. That happens every once in a while. I'll have a parent stop me after a gig and say, standing next to a college-age kid, I used to bring my daughter to your performances at Annapolis Mall 20 years ago, and now they're all grown up, and they kind of shrug their shoulders and kick the ground, like, yes, good singer Jim. I used to come to your concerts. It's pretty funny. I've had people in England. I had this one young lady email me and say that she and her sister, they didn't even have my music, and they were singing a cappella in the car to my songs, which was pretty amazing to hear, that they remembered all the words and didn't even have the music to sing along to. So
that is so cool.
That was that was one of my favorite compliments, I have to say.
That is so cool. How far away do you go to perform your music?
Typically within a 1 hour radius. Today I was about 2 hours away in Delaware. I have sung before in England. We had some friends we went over to visit, and I sang at a military base over there. I've been up and down the East Coast, as far north as New York, as far south as North Carolina.
Very good. Okay, we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back for another segment of Strategy Television, the after party, and sitting around the fire here. And I think Nancy wants to hear Daddy Longlegs. So you think you can make that happen?
Yes.
Okay, because we want to make Nancy happy this evening. And we'll be right back with more Strategy Television in just a few.
So my strategy as an actor and a filmmaker, number one, the biggest key is showing up. All you gotta do is show up. The second strategy, applying to everything. Just apply to everything. Extra work, background work, PA work. Just getting your foot in all different doors. Getting your foot on all the sets is networking. And you network, and then you network, and then you network, and you meet more people, and you meet more people, and it'll eventually get to the apply as much as you're getting references, you're being referenced, you're getting recommendations. People are calling you out of the blue for this, that, and the other thing because you've worked with somebody else. I'm a professional in both acting and crew work. Production side, I'm a director, producer, writer, first assistant, second assistant director, production coordinator, production manager, production assistant. I do a whole lot of work as a production assistant. I'm an experienced boom operator. It might benefit an actor starting off to do some crew work. Maybe as a PA, maybe these actors, maybe as an actor they have no idea about producing a film or what it takes to make a film. One of the reasons why I'm a somewhat of a talented actor is I have a lot of crew experience. And now the reason why I am now a much more talented and experienced director and assistant director is because I have some acting experience. So I know what actors go through, but I also know what it takes to get the scene set up and to light it and to get the set dressed and to lock down the locations. So as an actor, I'll go in, a lot of actors, they're focused on their lines, they're focused on the script, and that's it. And then they get confused about blocking the set and action, not to stumble on somebody's lines because it's not going to work for sound and editing, etc., etc. You got to hit your marks for the shot. So having some crew experience helps with acting. Having acting experience helps with crew work, especially directing, assistant directing, writing.
Check it out.
This our Jane Doe?
Sure is.
She's beautiful.
Well, let's see if we can give her a name.
You got it. She was discovered in a wooded area,
20-something
years old. Our way of getting information out there was
Any update on our Jane Doe?
still no hits on the dental records.
Gentlemen, this shirt is our only piece of evidence that we're going to work this shirt angle, but we're not going to stop ways to ID her. If anything remotely resembles a lead.
Sam, I worked my full back shift yesterday.
Come on, Tommy.
Honestly, I can't remember anything out of the ordinary happening, no? Yeah, I forgot. I was driving from a job and my stomach started to hurt and I was afraid I was going to get sick, so I stopped off at the house to get some antacids. No, I had finished the first job and my house is on the way to the second job assignment. So, like I said, I started feeling sick and made a quick stop. I think 4:30. Can I take a look? Yeah, it was 4:45 and I was home for about 20 minutes. And so I took the antacids, and when I started feeling better, I went on to the next job site, and I called somebody about it.
Immediately give her vehicle a once-over. Hoping for an explanation.
All of a sudden, all these cops pulled up in my yard. Oh, I know him. That's fine.
Invest speak with the couple regarding a possible murder's main man and where to find him. However, he's not sure where Letitia is. Just then, Cedric
This can't be real.
is finally in custody, Alicia, and present her with the evidence. She doesn't think twice about flipping on her.
She was a classic victim of combination, and he was a person who was extremely dangerous.
We will now return to Strategy Television on the Internet Broadcast Network.
There is a guy that I'd like you to meet. He's got a little body and he's got no feet. He's a daddy. He's a daddy long legs. He's a daddy. He's a daddy long legs. No other spiders will mess with him. 'Cause he'll just walk right over them. He's really cool, he wouldn't hurt no one. And it's really funny just to watch him run. He's a daddy. He's a daddy long legs. He's a daddy. He's a daddy long legs. Sometimes they all will gather around, and then they start to spring up and down. I look at them doing their great big dance. Well, I'd love to join them if I had the chance. They're the daddies, they're the daddy long legs. They're the daddies, they're the daddy long legs. They're the daddies, they're the daddy long legs. They're the daddies, they're the daddy long legs.
So cool, Daddy Longlegs, kid singer Jim. That is a pretty cool tune there, man. What do you think, Chicago Bill?
I'm loving it.
He's loving it.
I might go grab my guitar and sing along.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? So that was your first big hit.
Yeah, I guess you could say. With another.
It sounded a little bit like Stray Cats to me, a little bit. I liked it.
Yeah, that's a good one. You're right on. You know how we're all. I think all songwriters are influenced by what they hear, and
Sure.
every rock song is a variation of some other song or a combination of songs that we've all heard.
It's like the blues. It's all, E, A, B minor. It's all the same. But you know what you make out of it, and the lyrics and the the melodies and things. That's what makes it different.
Right. Exactly.
All the same words there. Well, Dennis said we've got to check in with Sarge, who's been running a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff for us here, and he's got a story to tell.
Yeah, I do, I guess. You guys having fun out there in the pit?
Oh, yes. We got this fire going out here, so we're all keeping warm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice and warm. I feel it here in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, it's still daylight out there in Chicago, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. What about my story? I don't know.
Tell us your strategy.
My strategy. That's a good one. While I'm directing and being interviewed at the same time.
It's called
I guess,
multitasking.
yeah. I've been botching that today. So I guess my strategy, number one, I'm directing the show, so it's trying to keep an eye out on 10 different things. It's multitasking, like you said. I guess what you guys saw earlier was my actor's reel. I've only been acting for a year. I've been doing crew work, film and TV work for, I guess, full-time freelance since 2008, 2009 maybe. And just to fill in the blanks in the schedule, I came back from Kuwait. I deployed to Kuwait with the National Guard that I do part-time. And I came back in 2015 from Kuwait with the idea to act. Since I'm a military policeman in the National Guard, in the Army National Guard, I figured I could play law enforcement as well as military roles as an extra, supporting whatever the case may be, play a detective in a crime show or whatever. And I figured just to fill in the blanks, but I guess, it's 2017. I mean, we have 5 guys running this entire TV show and another 5 people on the camera. So they don't need 20 people in the lighting department. They don't nowadays. So it's turned into more acting work than it has been crew work, with the exception of this great show, obviously. But that's the gist of it, I guess.
That is very cool. What programs, what movies or television shows may we have seen you on?
I've played a detective quite a bit on the crime reenactment shows. I don't know if you're familiar with Copycat Killers on Reels. You've got let me see what else. Who Killed Jane Doe on Investigation Discovery. Oh boy. Evil Twins, Evil Stepmothers, Evil Kin, all on Investigation Discovery. So they're obviously crime reenactments, so they're based on true stories. So they have a lot of actors that they cast to fit the exact look and identity of the real criminals and victims involved. But then they always need your generic. What's going on, Bill?
I'll say at least you're not playing the killer. It sounds like you're playing the cop. Because that would kind of be a bad thing if you always played the serial killer. That'd kind of be, get stuck in that little group there. It'd be bad.
Hey, I don't mind. Honestly, I mean, work's work. So if I'm gonna, if I'm gonna be a redneck trucker killing people at a truck stop, I don't care. If I'm gonna be a meth head, I don't care. I mean, work is work. But the thing is, I get casted more often as, a detective or a cop, and it's just always, we want this guy to be the cop. It's always just me as a cop, but then you have a specific lady or a specific guy that has a certain look, race, height, weight to fit the real life character that the episode. I mean, it's been a lot of these crime reenactment shows, honestly, which is great work. I mean, a lot of people are watching them. So, I mean, I guess it's, the first step to an acting career if that's the case. Or you've got what am I saying here? Or you've got the crew work. I mean, I still do a lot of assistant director and director work, production coordinator, production manager work, that sort of thing. I mean, obviously I'm directing. I'm working my slider right now as I'm being interviewed. So whatever fills the schedule, whatever pays the bills. I mean, like I was telling Captain and Ray earlier. I mean, I would do radio if it paid well and it was fun enough.
Yeah, if you need like serial killer types or real creepy guys, Ray is your man.
Oh, okay.
I said, well, wait a minute. Well, I can see you very, very well in one of those type of roles there, Chicago guy, especially with the backwards hat.
Well, it's funny. My wife and I watch a lot of ID channels, so I'm going to keep an eye out for you.
Yeah. Okay, so Evil Kin, Evil Stepmothers. Yep. Who Killed Jane Doe, and I'm forgetting another one on that show. But then on Reels is Copycat Killers. So, and Who Killed Jane Doe? I think that's it. And then we have a station. I don't know if it's a national station now, but we have a station here in the DC area, TV1. It started off as a local DC version of BET, but now I'm pretty sure it's nationwide. And they have a show called For My Man. I think I've done 15 episodes just for that show, For My Man. So
nice.
That's a fun show.
Sounds cool.
That's awesome.
How did you get involved? How did you get started with that? Do you have any special training or classes?
Yeah. Military police was my acting school, pretty much.
So life experience.
Yeah. I went to college for film and TV, mostly for the crew work. Directing, producing, videography, that sort of thing. I went to college for that. I never really wanted to do much as far as acting goes, but so I'm also in the National Guard as an MP, DC Army National Guard, and we deployed to Kuwait in 2014. And while I was there, one of my partners moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he started acting. And he was in the first scene. He had the first line in the first scene of the movie Independence Day Resurgence, the sequel to Independence Day. And he Skyped me up, and while I was in Kuwait, and told me about it. And I said, "Oh boy, I guess I got to step up my game and start branching out." and I figured military, police, and army, I can just take my experiences and simply just play a cop or a soldier or something in a movie and a TV show. But like I said, it flipped on me. It's been way more acting than it has been crew work. That I'm not complaining, but
it's funny you say that. I just the new Transformers movie's coming out,
right?
And I was just watching a thing today. One of the actors that I'm sorry I don't know his name was a Navy SEAL.
Right.
And he got, he just was a true Navy SEAL, and he's doing Transformers. He was a model, I guess, for a while, and now he's in Transformers. So there you go. Maybe you could be the next Michael Bay star.
I'm hoping. Have you guys seen? Let me give you another example. Have you guys seen? Oh, geez, The Hangover. When they
come on, of course.
So the actor, I can't remember his name. The actor who played the cop, the Caucasian male cop. They stole his cop car. He tased him.
Ron Riggles or something.
Something like
Ron
that.
Riggle.
He's a Marine reservist.
Yeah.
And I come to find out, I think Jimmy Stewart was in the reserves the whole time. He was a famous actor. He was still in the reserves. And one of the guys from the original Hawaii Five-0, he was in the Naval Reserves the whole time he was on the show. He was still in the Naval Reserves, something like that. So yeah, I mean, you have a lot of actors that do it part-time, and it's just another form of leadership training. You get paid to learn how to be a leader, and you get paid to learn how to be a cop. I mean, like I said, to me, I mean, of course, I take it seriously, but it's just an acting school. It's almost like acting school to me, as well.
That's great.
But of course, I take it seriously. I don't just think it's Boy Scouts or anything like that. But. Yep.
Very cool. Do you have any questions for him, Jim?
What was the most bizarre case that you had to reenact in one of your shows?
The most bizarre, it was actually an episode where I played a stepfather, not a cop. I played a stepfather, and I walk in on quite a gruesome scene of my stepdaughter, and it's a crime show. It was about an abduction murder story, and it was quite gruesome. So it was not hard for me to get in the character with the tears and the drama, and the emotional aspect of it. I'd say the most bizarre was that, because they just did such a great job of the special effects and the makeup and the blood and the whole thing. It was really intense to dive into that whole thing.
I had a question.
Sure.
Most people think to do any type of acting, you got to go to LA, you got to go down the Beverly Hills or whatever. A guy like myself, I've done some reality shows, and for instance, if I wanted to go, I'm in the Midwest, so I guess for strategy, if someone, no matter where they lived, wanted to do that, what's your first steps? How do you kind of start that process?
What's the question again? I'm sorry, I missed it. So
No,
my strategy
if someone
to
wanted
do what?
to do what you do, what would be the first steps of the process?
That's a good question. So I would jump on all sorts of different opportunities as an actor. If someone wanted to start off as an actor, I would jump on. I would just apply to everything. Every possible thing, extras, commercials, being a background extra, being a featured extra, being a model, being a stand-in, being a double. Get on set and stay on set all day, every day. Do everything you can. Just study the set, and even if this person is just an extra, even if this person's passion is to be an actor, I would delve into being like a production assistant, or getting into location scouting, getting into boom operation, getting into maybe being a camera assistant. Learn as much as you can of the set and see what goes on with production, because I'm lucky enough to have a degree in filmmaking, and I know what the production side was, and I decided to delve into the acting. I was already experienced on set enough to know I'm going to sit around and do nothing a lot. And then when they call me on set and it's time to do my lines, you know, the lights, camera, action, I know that it's going to be take after take after take. I know it's going to be bright lights. I know it's going to be hot and stuffy on set. I'm a little experienced as a director, so I know what the director's looking for. So when the director wants something, I know he's going to want more. He's going to want different takes and take after take after take, bright lights. Then it's going to be, okay, this scene is dramatic. You're really going to delve into, you know, harsh stuff, and then you got to turn it off, and then go get a cup of coffee and relax on the couch, and then come back on set and do it turn it on and off, and that sort of thing.
So they're like websites you can go for casting calls, like you mentioned, like someone who you know might not be in the industry, like you said, but wants to get started. I know you can go to college and things of that sort, or to film school, but someone that just maybe wants to start doing it. So is there certain websites that or do you have to get an agent? Do you have to how do you someone sitting at home saying, hey man, I want to do that. What can I do? Is there a website to go for casting calls or anything, like to sign up to get notified of this kind of thing?
That's a great question. Before I answer that, I got to check with my producer, see if I can get cleared with some of these websites. Can I mention something? Can I mention? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you have Craigslist. I go on Craigslist for a lot of crew work. I go on.
Really?
Yeah. Only for crew work. I don't do acting. I don't do acting because there's a lot of creepos out there. But crew work, Production Hub, Staff Me Up, those are good sites for crew work and production work. And then acting wise, locally we have a site called Dragon UK, Dragonuk. I think his last name is Dragonuk, but it's spelled Dragon UK Connects. You also have Backstage that I go onto a lot, and I think that's it. Oh,
great, thank you.
And so you have a lot. I mean, when I first got out of college, I think Google and YouTube were just starting up. So I don't think we had Craigslist when I first got out of college. So it was Yellow Pages and newspaper ads and stuff like that. And it was who you know and asking around and actually picking up a rotary phone and calling people. But now there's an app for that. Half the things out there's an app for that. So,
great, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your story, Sarge. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'd be amiss if I forgot to mention militaryentertainmentconsulting.com is a website me and Captain started. It's definitely linked to my company and Strategy Television. And I think that's it for me, guys. I mean, I'm just going to cut back to you, and I'll let you guys finish it out. And as the interviewee and the director, we have 3 minutes and 10 seconds left, so I'm going to take it back to you, Ray.
All right, thank you very much. We'd like to thank everybody that was on the show today. Kid Singer Jim, would you like to play us out? Yeah, while you're getting ready up there, let's thank all the folks that stopped by the show today, Larry Mikowski, and also Nancy Fields, Stu Smith, and of course the Sarge coming in, and Chicago Bill, man, just awesome. It's still light out there in Chicago, huh?
It's starting a little darker here, but Ray, it's great to see you, and I look forward to returning to our great relationship that we have.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Let kids be kids. Don't make them grow up too fast. Let their childhood last. Let kids be kids. Let them have Saturday morning cartoons, big fat water balloons, scary carnival rides, gigantic water slides. Let them out to play after a rain. Take them on a choo-choo train when they're feeling blue. Take them down to the zoo. Parents, I'm talking to you. Let kids be kids. Don't make them go up too fast. Let their childhood last. Let kids be kids. Let them have friends sleeping overnight and old-fashioned pillows. kids be kids. Don't make them grow up too fast. Let their childhood last. Let kids be kids. Let kids be kids. Let kids be kids. Let kids be kids.
Very good. Kid Singer Jim, that's a great song, great message there for us. And that about wraps up this particular episode of Strategy Television. My name is Ray Hoffman. We really enjoyed having you here, and make sure you watch more episodes of Strategy Television right here, the Internet Broadcast Network.
Do you have any great strategy stories we need to hear about? Please feel free to contact us at any time. It is more efficient for us to respond via your email than by telephone. When responding, please include your name, age, location, email address, and telephone number, along with a brief description of your story. I am your announcer, Peter Baker.
If you want to do it, you got to compete. Remember, live to compete, not just survive. Stu Smith out.
This is the Internet Broadcast Network. Would you like some personal one-on-one strategy sessions with any of our strategists? Please refer to their biography and contact information on our website. This valuable programming content and characters created by the Internet Broadcast Network, its producers, writers, and directors, is designed for informational, comedic, and entertainment purposes only. This programming is intended for adult viewers or children when accompanied by adults. Do not make any life-altering decisions based upon the information contained herein. Viewing the programming constitutes your release of liability to the Internet Broadcast Network, its parent company, owners, assigns, producers, directors, affiliates, guests, personnel, companies, or entities associated with, including but not limited to, advertisers, sponsors, and licensees. Make good strategic decisions you can live by. If a dispute arises out of or relates to your viewership or association with the entities noted above or the breach thereof, and if the dispute cannot be settled through negotiation, the parties agree in good faith to settle the dispute by mediation administered by the American Arbitration Association in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and will not resort to litigation or punitive actions or monetary awards in any way, or utilize some other dispute resolution procedure. The parties further agree to accept as a whole the single AAA Arbitrators Award not to exceed a maximum of $500 as final and binding upon them. I am your announcer, Peter Baker. Remember, the best strategy is to always think before you drink. And every day, whenever possible, you must hit them with the Hein. This is Strategy Television, and I am Peter Baker. This is the Internet Broadcast Network.
See them all around you from every walk of life. They might be someone's brother, they might be someone's wife. They might work at the grocery store bagging up your food. If they walk by you with their head held high, please don't think they're rude. They'll never ask for anything, they only want to get healed. So you can go to sleep tonight in the greatest place to live. The God is in the never rest, on this you can be sure. Only thing we ask of them is to give us one more. One more for the little ones, one more for the old. One more for the shy ones and one more for the bold. One more for the daughters and one more for the sons. One more for the babies whose lives have just begun. One more for the freedom of which we always sing. One more for the young girl who wears a diamond ring. One more for the ones who died and those who stayed alive, who keep our country going where anyone can thrive. One more for the ones who come from the lands, air and sea, so that we may always live in the land of the free. One more for the good times, one more for the sorrow. One more for the heroes of tomorrow. One more for the good times, one more for the sorrow. One more for the heroes of tomorrow.